It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sunday, 12 noon Eastern. We usually do these at 8 o'clock at night, but with SummerSlam Night 2 going on this evening, we figured we'd come up a little bit early. I was going to do a live stream last night, but then I was reminded that we have 1,001 live streams all going at it at the same time, all competing to try to get everybody's attention. I figured, you know what? I'm going to sit back, relax, get a good night's sleep, get up, make myself a double espresso, and come up here at 12 noon, giving you an honest review of SummerSlam Night 1, a little preview for SummerSlam Night 2, anything has changed, honest thoughts, plus we got the video of Brie Bella's injury, Matarazzo. I tell you, when you watch it in slow motion, I don't want to say that she deserved to be injured, but you're going to say to yourself, why did you do that? Why did you do that? I mean, you know, it's just common sense would tell you not to do what she did. I'll show you that in a little bit. And we're also going to get into that comment that Triple H said on the post-SummerSlam media scrum. Something tells me we will not get too many of those media scrums going forward because Triple H, once again, getting hit with some interesting questions. Need I remind everyone out there is that what you see on WWE television is entertainment, and wrestlers themselves are not going to go into business for themselves unless they want to commit career. You know, we don't want to say the S word, but, you know, when Damian Priest was talking to Cody Rhodes, and we don't want the same people on top, do you really think that Damian Priest would go into business for himself and say that on national television unless that was something that was put out there because the fans have been talking about that more and more? You know, we've noticed this for several years now. When you see a pattern of complaining online, sometimes they'll make a wrestler cut a promo and say what many people like us are saying. Case in point, when we're talking about TKO and the corporate, you know, stooges and all that stuff, what happens? You have Cody Rhodes, the biggest corporate stooge of them all, if we're being honest. Cody Rhodes cuts a promo on TV talking about Roman is TKO's boy, and this and that, and whatever he did. You know, he's the number one corporate boy of them all. CM Punk, you know, bringing up stuff about Pat McAfee. Not just the McAfee, but the TKO stuff. You know, you honestly think corporate Punk is going to go into business for himself in 2026 with his wife back on the payroll at the time, with him getting treated like a king? No. They see the climate online. They have meetings. You know, not every meeting makes WWE unreal. You know, yesterday we posted the history show, and I definitely recommend everybody go check it out. But, and here's one of the thumbnails for it. Yeah, it's the anniversary that we learned that Vince loves cock, and we don't mean an expletive. We're talking about roosters. Yeah, there's a big story behind that. But, you know, we were talking about the first season of WWE Unreal, which launched a year ago this week. And, you know, they conveniently left out a lot of the criticism with Travis Scott. They left out a lot of the criticism about WWE Creative. And it was very interesting because we need to remember that the producers of WWE Unreal are not Lee Fitting, not Triple H, not Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, whoever you want to choose. It is an outside company. And Netflix is hardcore on reality television. And Netflix has shown other people, other networks, other documentaries where they will be critical of people that they're doing business with. Why would the producers conveniently leave out very, very juicy, real reality points that we would all be inclined to be interested in, especially non-wrestling fans? But then you leave in something where Michael Hayes sticks his finger up Chelsea Green's ass. You know, you see the dumb shit with LA Knight. Oh, I don't know, the camera's all around. What's this big white light in my face? Like, come on. You know, they conveniently left out things. So my point is, when you see things said on television, it's to kind of make it seem like said wrestler agrees with us. So what happens? I think it's Rich Okino asks Triple H the question last night on a media scrum. Hey, Damian Priest recently said that, you know, fans are a little bit tired of the same people on top. Now, you would think, you would have a response similar to like what CM Punk says about Jey Uso at live events or someone else. Instead, Triple H really struck a nerve and said something, and I'm going to open up with that, and then we'll give you an honest review of night one, because I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to say about it. I'll tell you what I really liked, what I really disliked, and my overall thoughts. And I'll just give you a little spoiler. SummerSlam cannot be 2 nights the way it is right now. It can't. It should not. There were matches last night that had no business being on that show, unless you wanted to do like a Sunday Night Heat or like an AEW buy-in, and you put the 2 fucking tag teams as the first hour as a pre-show matches, and then you add 2 other matches on the card. Now we're talking a little bit. But first, I just want you to hear Triple H's response that is really pissing off the IWC, and done by design.
Right? And, you know, whenever anybody says, like, well, I don't know why I'm not in that spot. Like, I don't know. Are you more over than Cody? Are you more over than Roman? Are you more over than Punk? Are you more over than Liv? EO? Right? Those people that are in that spot. Get there. Start to make those crowd reactions happen. Whatever you need to make it happen, that's what we're all here for to do. So I love that mentality, because I think it makes...
Nah, come on. How are people going to get over when you don't put them in a position like that? I know everybody immediately say, LA Knight. Yeah. There's a lot of wrestlers over the years that are super, 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 super over and don't get that spot. You know, that's just nonsense of what he said. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. I've said this 1,000 times over. You know, the people that tell this, you know, there's people have told you, I don't know, it's the, you know, like the annual tradition is SummerSlam around, Survivor Series around Thanksgiving. That's what it used to be. The annual tradition, the Thanksgiving tradition. The annual tradition now for some people in the podcasting world and the media world is, oh, there, I saw it. Cody's turning heel. There, unpopular opinion, Cody. That was the moment. They did it 3 years ago, 2 years ago. They did it last year with John Cena, right before the street fight, and they did it again now. Cody Rhodes is the most over guy in that company. There were people, I don't know if you heard the reports, there were people waiting online at 4:30 in the morning, Saturday morning, wanting to be first to meet Cody Rhodes. I mean, I know that sounds almost bizarre, you know. Hey, I remember back in the day, people used to stay outside my house 4:30 in the morning waiting for me. The problem was they wanted to kick my ass. No, but the thing is, he is the most over person in that company. The people out there that say it feel his character is bland. And if we take notice of last night, did you see him coming out as Guile? Did you see the fucking skeleton mask with the hat? I thought the fucking skeleton had sex with... It was like a combination of Vanilla Ice and Kid and Play. You know, I know he's doing Guile from Street Fighter, but did you see him come up And did you notice there was no loud roar from the fans as he came up? I think the fans were like, huh? And how good does that look? That Guile lost. Yeah, because of Randy Orton, but still, Guile lost. And when I saw that, listen, the video game intro, I'm sure Kenny Omega's a little bit pissed off right now. Can't use it for All In. But that's pretty much what the vibe I was trying to get doing a play on it yesterday. But I originally had this. When I first saw it, I thought it was like, wow, that looks like a upside down Reese's peanut butter cup mini. Anybody out there, go to your next time you go to the drugstore, go in the candy aisle and look at the Reese's peanut butter cup minis. That's what his head looked like to me. It didn't go off at all, in my honest opinion. But the thing is, the people that say that about Cody Rhodes are kind of tired of the character. The problem is that's not the overall consensus. So you would think Triple H would say, listen, there's a very small noise online that'll complain about everything. That's not the overall consensus by wrestling fans. But here he's like, get over, and then you'll get over. Whatever that means. Let me tell you something. To me, the highlight of SummerSlam day one, and I say day one for a reason, was some of the footage coming out of the autograph signings. And I can't play the audio because I'll get ripped apart by copyrights. But I love this video of Johnny Gargano. Every person he met, he just laid on the table. He literally just laid on the table. I mean, talk about a guy that, me personally, I think, unfortunately, he's on his way out. I just can't see TKO looking at this like, yeah, we're spending really good money on this. I just can't see it, if we're being honest. And the minute Johnny Gargano's released, everybody and their mother's going to call dog shit about this storyline with him laying down all the time. Like some invalid with a spinal injury. It's just dog shit. All right. Yes, you take chicken shit and you try to turn it into chicken salad, but there's been a lot of wrestlers who are tremendously over. And fans give up. I don't want to use Cross as an example, but Cross got himself over really, really well. Nobody said that he had to win the world championship. But what did they do? They put him in fucking purgatory with Sami Zayn. And that storyline just never ended. It's like one of those old books from back in the 80s that we used to get where if you want to go down this road, turn to page 22. If you want to make this decision, turn to page 64. If you want, and you go through 500 pages and then you get to the end and you think you're about to finish the book and it says, if you want to go left, turn to page 3. If you want to go right, turn to page 4. If you want to go straight ahead, turn to page 7. If you don't want to move, stay on this page. It's like, where does this end? So that comment by Triple H is strategic, planted by creative, executed by Priest, and thrown in our face by Triple H. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. I've been saying this for well over a decade when he was still doing NXT. Do you remember that time? Oh, they're erasing Triple H's legacy. They're going against everything he built for NXT. He's in the corner. Stephanie's going to divorce him. He's going to lose everything. He's going to quit. He's going to get fired. They've been saying this for how many fucking years? And the entire time, these Matarazzis that have been saying this have been saying since day one that guy has been a Vince McMahon guy since the 90s. Since the 90s. Doesn't mean that he doesn't care about the wrestlers. Doesn't mean that he doesn't want to see people succeed. But it means he's got the mindset of a Vince McMahon guy. Just look at that clip of him and The Rock talking about Travis Scott. Gushy, where you almost thought they both had erections. What they thought that this was brilliant TV. Never once did somebody say, you think the fans will go for this? you think the paying fans will go for this? Oh, but ESPN, the Netflix, the entertainment world, the hip hop community, Travis Scott, blah, 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 blah. Fans are left out because we're suckers. We're going to pay anyway. We're going to watch anyway. And right now, WWE is too big to have a implosion. It's too big to have an implosion. So they get away with this shit. So now we get to night one. Let me tell you a couple of things that I did like, a couple of things that I really didn't like. Then I have some interesting stats about Hell in a Cell. I actually did some research that'll put WrestleNomics to shame, and I say that jokingly, but I did some legitimate research for all of you because I love you. Couple of things I hated. First of all, Liv Morgan getting the win. No, not because we realize that she would have made history if she lost and all that other stuff, but she's been champion now for 107 days. That was her first title defense. I mean, you have Rhea Ripley, who's out with an injury, and you don't make any decision on there, and instead, you're going to crown an interim champion. Now, good for the interim champion, get a little extra prestige, and ultimately get a match where they'll fall victim to Rhea Ripley's riptide, but they have done an absolute shit job with the women's championship. I mean, I get it. Liv Morgan's a heel. I get it. Liv Morgan is a great talent, and, she's, I think, destined to be put in the top 5 in a couple of years. She keeps at it. She's obviously one of the top women there. But just because you're a chicken shit heel, you don't put her in a situation where she just doesn't defend the championship. It makes Adam Pearce look like a dope. In storyline. How come Adam Pearce didn't say for SummerSlam, Roxanne, you're barred from ringside. If anybody interferes, Liv, you lose that championship. Where was he yesterday? Was the ice cream man outside? Was he raiding Danhausen's truck and stealing all the free pops? Just storyline wise, it's stupid. Don't insult our intelligence. We have over and over and over again Raquel and Roxanne interfering. And I'm a huge fan of Judgment Day. I am a huge fan of Raquel Rodriguez specifically. But it gets tired after a while. It's the same shit over and over again. The match was great. Wasn't spectacular, but it was great. But it felt like I was watching Raw. It felt like I was watching Raw in a stadium. So that was something that I hated more than anything else. Nobody comes out to help Io Sky. Where's Sol Ruka? Is she surfing at the Minnesota beach? Like in storyline. Where's Stephanie Vaquer? Nobody comes out to aid to neutralize Io. Io looks like a dope. She makes the save for everybody else, and nobody makes the save for her. There was no backstage segment with Io hanging out with Stephanie Vaquer and Sol Ruka and anybody else you want to put in there. No, I want to win by myself. Stay in back. We didn't get any of that. So to me, I felt like I was watching a glorified Raw match. Another thing I didn't like was the women's match. The Bellas look great. The Bellas have not aged. The Bellas are unfit. The Bellas can work for an indie group. All right. Somebody wrote that they're how did they write it? They were employment thieves. This is a nostalgia. This was a nostalgia tour. And the thing is, Paige, obviously, for age, injury, mental health, various reasons, Paige is not what she was 10 years ago. A lot of people are not what they were 10 years ago. I'm not shitting on Paige at all, but this was clearly a nostalgia tour. And the thing is you have NXT women Grayson Waller's promo talking about the NXT women outshining the men. Yeah, a lot of people believe that. But you have, some really, really talented women, and you put in favor for recognizable names that we have missed. And there's nothing wrong with having the Bellas on WWE television. But the problem is that go back and watch their match against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Go back and watch the match with Nia Jax and Last Legend. Go back and watch the matches that they have had. Even Saturday night's main event. All right. The difference is all the people they're facing are people that have come through the system very recently. All right. Charlotte is a veteran and Alexa's a veteran, but they're still young enough and they're always extremely talented enough that they could still go. And they had to pull back. They had to come down. You know what it's like? This to me, this is what the women's roster is like wrestling the Bellas. And I want you to remember this analogy because I think it's one of the greatest ones that just came to my head to the point where I think I'm going to pour a little Zambuca in my coffee just to have a little bit of a toast. I think this one is a good one. You're a major league pitcher. Paul, Skeens, whoever you want to use, Cam, whatever, Schlithead, you're a major league pitcher that could throw 100 miles an hour or throw 95 miles an hour. All right. So now you can face the best of the best and kill it. You go home to your 10-year-old son. Hey, you want to play catch? Do you turn around? I don't want to throw anything and put a hole through my wall. For what? So people could put in a laughy emoji face. Does he turn around and throw 95 miles an hour to his 10-year-old kid? Or does he pull back and he's like, that's what these women's wrestlers look like when they're facing the Bellas. They can't throw 95. They got to throw it like they're throwing it to a 10-year-old, or they have to throw it to a 50-year-old. And we saw that yesterday. This match had no business being on this show. Fatal Influence wins. Nice. You did all this so Nikki could turn on Paige and reform the Bellas. Now batting for Nikki Bella. Number 0, Brie Bella. Now Brie Bella's on the shelf because Brie Bella has gotten injured now. So instead, you drop Paige from Brie Bella because Nikki's back. Now we could do what we wanted to do at WrestleMania. Now holy shit, did I just realize something? Are the Bellas strategically taking turns injuring themselves to prolong their career in the WWE? I know I'm joking, but let's just be sinister, dumb morons for a second. Nikki, you injure your ankle. So now they can postpone the Bellas. And then when we're ready to return, so they don't get their fill with the Bellas and then release us, I'll get injured. And now Nikki will have to wait until I get back. And then maybe when we get back, we could both get injured. We could slip on some wine. I want to show you the video. Of Brie Bella's injury. All right. And listen, I'm trying to prolong this episode for like an hour and a half, because if I get into match results, we'll be done in 10 minutes. There wasn't a shitload memorable. There were things I liked. Don't get me wrong. We'll get into the things I liked, but I want to get the caca out of my system first. When you have to take a dump, you want to let that big one out first, and then you're like, and then you read a book, you check your phone, you read a newspaper, whatever you do, and then it's fine. Whatever else, but let's show you the video, all right? This was the spot, okay? Now, I want you to look closely. I'm going to try to pause it exactly at the moment. I will be able to pause it, but I want you to look very closely as to what Brie Bella did. Here is the spot. During the Fatal Influence Bella's Paige match, Brie Bella's outside the ring with JC Jane. And what JC Jane does is puts Brie Bella against the ring steps. And then JC Jane does a cannonball onto Brie Bella, okay? We've seen this 1,000 times. So I want to just set this up there. Okay. I want to set this up. Now, you have to look very, very closely. You have to look very, very closely. All right, I'm going to pause it right at the spot. Okay, there's the perfect spot. Look at Brie Bella. Look at her right arm. She has her arm behind her head like this. Who in their right mind, leaning against steel steps, and someone is going to do a cannonball with their 120-pound body going up against your body, where you're going to bang into the steel steps for sound and for good visual. If you look at her other arm, it's down. It's down on the floor. Props. This one is like this. Ow, my head, my neck, my back, my pussy, and my crack. This is what she did. Now watch what happens. Watch it. Can I slow this down? Yes, I can slow this down. Let's slow this down. Let's slow this to about 25%. Watch this. You see that? She still has her arm like this. So what do you think happens when and here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everyone out there, whether you're watching on video or listening at home, I want you to pretend like you have a mosquito bite on your back, on your neck right now. And you go and you slap it. I want you to keep your hand on your neck, and I want you to look at your elbow bone, at your elbow. All right, don't look at your elbow bone, because if you did, then you had a major accident. Look at your elbow. All right, here is my head. Here is my body. Do you see how much further my elbow is? Let me go to sideways. Do you see how much further out that is? So if JC Jane is going to smash into me, look, I don't have any wrestling figures that'll hurt me right now. I have to use the Samoa Joe TNA one to make a point. All right. If I have my elbow like this and JC Jane is going to do a cannonball, what is the first thing that she's going to hit? What is the first thing she's going to hit? All right. Fucking thing is talking to me. Your elbow is going to absorb all of the impact. So what happens? She gets the cannonball into the elbow. Her whole shoulder goes back, and now her shoulder's injured. Look at the rest of it. There you go. More. Why? 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 Even if you don't like Brie Bella, you don't want to see her injured. Ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. So now she's injured. And they turned on Paige. So you can't even get AJ Lee to return to align with Paige to take on the Bellas. Now that's thrown on the shelf. Yes, that is a match they are seriously considering. Little behind the scenes. That's been discussed. Oh, trust me, you'll get a wrestling news. My sources tell me that WWE is considering the Bellas versus Paige and AJ Lee. You know, you have to be a bona fide, legit, otherwise Dave Meltzer will call you a fraudster. So that I didn't like. Another thing I didn't like. This might be a little bit unpopular. I was not feeling the World Heavyweight, the Undisputed WWE Championship match. This thing went on 30 minutes, and it felt like, how do we make this last 30 minutes? Guys worked hard. CM Punk worked his ass off. Cody Rhodes worked his ass off. Yes, there was some very, very sloppy spots. The moonsault was what it was. Crashing through the table hurt like hell. They worked really, really hard to push this. The problem is Cody Rhodes and CM Punk have been too tight for too long. And you can't turn around in 2 or 3 weeks and try to make us feel like these two guys absolutely despise each other. And especially when WWE Unreal Season 4 or Season 5 comes out, and then they're, in the back, hey, man, that was great, man. Had a great time, man. Brother, that was awesome. brother, let's do it again. It's very, very hard to let that sink in. It just felt like a match that went through the motions. Yes, they did big spots, but it just, to me, fell flat. The build fell flat. The match was fine. But to me, throw that on Saturday night's main event, okay, I think it's pretty decent. On a special SmackDown episode, fine. Randy Orton returning and turning is awesome. It's awesome. Interesting that he goes after Cody when Cody is not the champion. Yes, it's a return to WrestleMania. Don't forget Pat McAfee and all that other shit. So it makes total sense why Randy Orton would return and attack Cody. But now there's no championship on the line. So you got this feud. You'll see wins being traded back and forth. You don't have to worry about titles changing hands. And we expected Randy Orton to return. That was one of the bonus questions on the Patreon contest. One of the other bonus questions on the Patreon contest was, would Brock Lesnar show a sign of respect to Oba Femi? A lot of people thought we were nuts, but that was on my predictions. That's one of the things. Now we get to three things that I liked. Brock Lesnar passing the torch to Oba Femi. This is what it always was. Yeah, the retirement thing was wonky and strange, but in the end, we ended up having three pretty damn good matches between Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi. Hell in a Cell kind of was a little flat, and trust me, when I get into statistics, you'll see why I say that. But to me, Brock Lesnar truly, remember the rumors at the end of last year? Brock Lesnar has no interest in working Oba Femi. There's some issue going on with Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi. He doesn't like Oba Femi. I think some people even tried to pull the race card because they hated Brock Lesnar. Don't forget, it was a year ago that Brock Lesnar returned after John Cena lost the Undisputed WWE Championship to Cody Rhodes. And Dave Meltzer said that he talked to women in the WWE, and one of the women told him that they were privately disgusted. He used those actual words. First of all, does anybody think Dave Meltzer talks to any women in WWE? Number two, what woman is going to use that term? Hey, so-and-so, what do you think about Brock Lesnar returning and attacking John Cena? I'm privately disgusted. Who the fuck talks like that? Who talks like that? Nobody talks like that. So Brock Lesnar returning for 3 extra matches. I don't care. The storyline makes sense. Doesn't make sense. Eric Bischoff, this storyline is stupid. It's stupid. Brock Lesnar was the perfect person to pass the torch to Oba Femi. They have similar physiques. He's got similar auras. We've said that Oba Femi's the next big thing. I believe without a doubt Paul Heyman will be managing Oba Femi at some point in his career, as long as Paul Heyman remains somewhat healthy. I loved how this went down. Hell in a Cell's probably not necessarily the place you want to do it, because remember, lives change forever. People are never the same after Hell in a Cell. So, but still, putting all that aside, you could see how much Brock really wanted to help. I think we have learned over the years that Brock Lesnar, we've been perceived that Brock Lesnar, yes, punches his clock, punches out. Maybe he doesn't care about wrestling, maybe more now than in the past. It's just business, doing a job, that's it. And a lot of people got upset at him over that. Got upset over his schedule when he was a champion and, didn't defend the title for months. But the thing is, there are people where Brock is like, yeah, I want to work that person. Yeah, I'll do a match with him. I think he absolutely wanted to work. And I got news for you. I will guarantee you that on a future episode of WWE Unreal, you will see a little bit more about Brock Lesnar wanting to do this with Oba Femi. I think it's going to give a little bit of a different perception about Brock. So that was something that I liked. The Hell in a Cell match, way too short. Way too short. It's way too short. Trust me. And if you want, I could give you some statistics. I'll give you some statistics now, okay? We've had about 50 Hell in a Cell matches, other than Raw, SmackDown, and Dark matches. We had 50, okay? You have 4 in the 1990s, 14 in the 2000s, 22 in the 2010s, and now 11 in the 2020s. So I want the average match time for each decade. In the 1990s, the average match time for Hell in a Cell was 16 minutes, 16 seconds. In the 2000s, it was 25 minutes and 38 seconds. In the 2010s, it was 22 minutes and 53 seconds. And the 2020s, it's 23 minutes and 18 seconds. So it's safe to say between 23 and 24 minutes is the average of a Hell in a Cell match. Now, as far as the longest matches ever, a lot of them happened pretty early on. Triple H and Shawn Michaels went 47 minutes. Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon from 2017 went 39 minutes. Angle, Taker, Triple H, Austin, Rikishi, and The Rock from 2000 went 32 minutes. That one, I guess you give a pass because there's so many people involved in the match. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, which was pretty recent, 31 minutes. Okay, so a lot of these matches, I'm not going to read you 50 matches, but a lot of these matches on these two sheets are all 25 minutes, 30 minutes, pretty much on average. Then you get into under 20 minutes. Some of the shorter matches out there. Undertaker, Mankind from 1998, 17 minutes, 30 seconds. Obviously, we know why. The match went longer than it did with the delays. Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt went 17 and a half minutes. Roman and Rey Mysterio, that was SmackDown, so we're not going to include that. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose went 14 minutes. CM Punk and Ryback went 13 minutes. Actually, that's the match with Paul Heyman. Remember, Paul Heyman was involved in that match? They had another Hell in a Cell that went 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Undertaker and Big Boss Man from WrestleMania 15 went 9 minutes and 50 seconds. And the shortest match of all, as far as televised pay-per-view, Undertaker and CM Punk, 2009 Hell in a Cell, 8 minutes, 50 seconds. How long was this match yesterday? 11 minutes and 40 seconds. It's half, and that's the lower half of what a typical Hell in a Cell match has been in recent memory. For the last 25 years, average match is about 23 to 24 minutes. You went all the way down to 11. And there were some lulls also. 11 minutes. So I think if it would have gone another 5 or 6 minutes, they weren't doing blood. Obviously, if you remember my episode a couple of weeks ago on why blood is blurred and edited on Netflix, you know the deal. They're going to try to avoid that as much as possible. This match was very, very physical yesterday, but it was definitely lacking. So I love that Brock passed the torch. The match itself, kind of in the middle. And when you think about, the other matches involved, what does that say? Because you don't have much of anything else. Another thing I loved was the fact that they finally let Nick Aldis return to the ring. Nick Aldis reminded everyone why he is also a ring general. Some people are still surprised when somebody pointed out last week that Nick Aldis is younger than Seth Rollins. Problem is, and I've talked about this, I even talked about it with the predictions. WWE doesn't see Nick Aldis as a regular wrestler in that company. Maybe good for NXT. The name is too plain. The gimmick is too plain. now the fans get behind him more because he's the GM and, they have grown to like him. They never brought him in just to be a wrestler. He would have went the Motor City Machine Guns route. Maybe a little bit of buzz early on, and then people there's no character development. There's no connection with the fans. Being the GM and Gunther helped that connection. And the fans loved that match yesterday. All right. The match was fine. I personally think it should have gone longer. When we get into the match results, I'll give you the times. My problem with Nick Aldis is what Triple H said on the media scrum. If you listen very closely, WWE really does not have plans to have Nick Aldis wrestle again anytime soon. Triple H left with the never say never in the WWE. Never say never in the WWE. They don't want Nick Aldis as a regular wrestler. And you ask yourself, is there going to be a point where Nick Aldis is going to decide, I still have a couple of years left in my in-ring career. I don't want to waste him being a GM. I could always be the GM 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So do I turn around and leave within the next year so I can have a few more years? I always said, he gave me Nick Bockwinkel vibes. Classy, great on the mic, not extremely loud and charismatic and animated, but very, very believable professional. Backed it up in the ring. But a lot of that is not what makes a WWE superstar in this age. You have to have a connection with the fans. Listen to what Triple H said yesterday. Get over. I want to hear those fans really, really loud. Tell me a plain, extremely talented professional wrestler that on a week in and week out basis is just going to go out there, do their thing, and the crowd is going to go fucking nuts. The crowd's going to go nuts. There has to be a little bit more. And WWE doesn't see that with Nick Aldis. And Triple H basically told everyone, without telling everyone yesterday, yeah, Nick Aldis can go, and, we gave him a little nugget here, but, we're not making this a regular thing. It's just the facts. It's just the facts. So I loved seeing Nick Aldis in that ring yesterday. Another thing I did love was Solo Sikoa doing the Yeet Party. I mean, if they stop making Solo Sikoa looking like a used car salesman from the hood, I think Solo Sikoa, or pimp, if you want to use that, I think Solo Sikoa truly could get over as a babyface. I still feel that this is temporary. I still feel that every fan out there believes he is ultimately turning. It just doesn't feel authentic. It feels forced. It just feels like, all right, we're just going to do this now because we don't have any other ideas for you. The guy is animated. If you watch some of his early stuff before he went to WWE, the guy can really get himself over. I thought his antics yesterday in the match made the match that much more enjoyable. Problem is, the match itself felt like a pre-show match. It felt like a Monday Night Raw match. That match had no business being on that show. You're asking people to pay thousands, hundreds, even if you paid $60 for a ticket, $70, $100 for a ticket. You talk about, getting in the building, parking, lodging, buying a little food, get a little merch. Easily, you drop $500, maybe a little bit more. This is not a regular premium live event. This is one of the big four, and you've now made it a 2-night event. Those 6 matches have no business being on a 2-night event. That card yesterday was built around 2 matches. Hell in a Cell, which went 11 minutes, and CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, which just felt like trying to figure out how could we stretch this to 30. It just felt forced. To me, the most anticipated match that I wanted to see was Oba and Brock. No business charging that kind of coin. I watched the people in the first row. And Vliet was in the first row. I mean, that guy definitely deserves it. There's a few notable names, but I sit there and I'm looking at people who are dropping thousands and thousands of dollars, and I'm like, when you really dissect this, all right, you go on location and you pay, no joke, $12,000, $14,000 to give a handshake to Danhausen, Julia, some other person, for real. You pay literally $12,000, a couple of handshakes, which you could have done at the Fan Fest. You get to take a picture around ringside. With all due respect, if you really want to be an asshole, you could fucking Photoshop that shit to death. Plus, even if you do take it at ringside, cool to be you. Like, whatever, and, I get to take home a chair. Yeah, that's what I want to do when I get home. I want to sit on a metal folding chair. First of all, you don't want to sit on the folding chair. And then what happens, it sits in the corner, it starts getting dusty, and you say, why do we have this chair? Honey, you have to keep reminding me that we fucking could have bought a nice used car, and instead we got this fucking folding chair. You get a little gift bag. Oh, wow. I could buy it on eBay for $60. And then you sit front row. So how much of that $12,000 or $14,000 is the event itself? 9,000 of it? 9,000? No joke. You'd look at the merch. How much does that stuff cost? $500? $10,000 to sit front row. For those matches, is it worth to spend on average $1,500, $1,600 per match to see it up close and personal? Up close and personal? And God help you if you tap a wrestler on the back when they're walking by. Hey, good job. Don't touch me. I mean, I'm not saying that you should be able to touch wrestlers, but I'm just saying, like, you sit up close and personal. Like, I mean, I get it. There's nothing like sitting on the floor. Don't get me wrong. When I go to baseball games, I love sitting on the field level. But remember, I'm going to a baseball game that's 162 game season. 162 game season. So the price to go is not that crazy. Here, you're looking at one of 12 premium live events, one of the big four, so big that you have 2 nights for it, and you want me to pay like equivalent to like the Super Bowl or an NBA Finals game. So if you're going to make me pay equivalent to a World Series ticket, an NBA Finals game, or a Super Bowl game, you better fucking win. And I get it. In wrestling, not everybody you like is going to win, and some that you like are going to lose. But the point is, you want to feel like you watched a playoff game. You don't want to feel that you just got the opportunity to sit up close and personal to watch a mediocre premium live event. And that's what this was. For the fact that it's 2 nights, the fact that you're commanding that kind of coin, this was below average. Below average. If this would have been a 1-night event and you had 9 matches on the card, and you take out the women's tag matches, the 6-person tag, you take off the 6-man tag, put those on a pre-show, you take off Trick Williams and Baron Corbin, which has no reason to be on this show, and you leave everything else on that card, now we're talking. Now we're talking. You basically stretched it into 2 because you got greedy. And let me say one last thing in closing. I'm not finishing the show yet. We got more to do. But I'll say one last thing in closing with this random discussion. We'll get a couple of super shout-outs. Then we'll get into match results and a little preview of Night 2. Triple H said before SummerSlam, this is going to be, quote, one hell of a ride. Was it? Was it one hell of a ride? No, it wasn't. What I am starting to realize about Triple H, no, it's not just the hype up ESPN, hype up Netflix, hype up this. What I realize now is that Triple H is talking on behalf of the staff, on behalf of the wrestlers, on behalf of creative, on behalf of production, on behalf of cameramen, on behalf of the wrestlers, on behalf of everybody that's involved in the WWE. When you eat, sleep, shit this, and get paid directly from the WWE every single day, all the behind the scenes planning, the media, the tour, setting this up, doing this, producing this, planning this. When you finally get there, you're like, wow, this is going to be one hell of a ride. Because they have done an insane amount to lead to this point. Raws, SmackDowns, post interviews, backstage stuff, Saturday night's main event, media. So he's talking as if one of the persons who has been embedded, prepping for this for months. So he finally out there like, wow, this is going to be one hell of a ride. It's like me preparing for a concert. And I build the stage and I put the ads out and I get the street team who are passing out flyers and, doing sound checks and getting all this equipment and doing tests, and the screens are beautiful. The sound is beautiful. Everything looks amazing. I go out and I like, hey, wow, this is going to be one hell of a ride. And then you realize the fucking bands I booked, nobody gives a shit about, or they're very subpar, or they're cover bands. Like the people show up like, oh, this is what I paid for? This is what I paid for? For me, it's one hell of a ride. For everybody else from the outside in, it's like, no, this is watered down subpar. And this is not being poo-pooing. This is not me just being complaining. This is honest. This is 100. This is not, I got to go against the grain because that's what gets you more views and hits and more responses. No, this was subpar, especially when WWE is worth as much as it is right now. The prices they're commanding, this is not worth it. If those ticket prices were 1/3, if you didn't have to go through hoops to watch Raw on this channel, SmackDown on this channel, Saturday night's main event on this channel, premium live events here. If you're in the United States or you're overseas here, you got to subscribe to this. You got to be part of this. You got to log into this. You got to do all that and drop $60, $70 a month with different subscriptions just to be able to watch it. This is not worth it. This is not worth it. Back when it was $9.99 a month, back when the WWE Network was $9.99 a month, when people used to say exactly what I'm saying now, my answer would be, fucking you paid $9.99. You're going to complain? It's like you go to a restaurant, you have a fucking 5-course meal, $9.99, and then you complain. I thought the steak was a little tough. I thought the lettuce was a little saggy. I thought the potatoes were undercooked. I think the dessert was a little too sweet. I would have liked a refill of my drink. Like, shut up. You paid $9.99. Fuck, shut up. Now, you want to be this big? You better deliver this fucking big, and not simply because you all behind the scenes feel that way. I guarantee you, every WWE superstar, every person that works for that company believes, it's big. Big balls, big. This is big. Hell of a ride. History. For all of us, it's like, wow, this is overblown, man. Overblown. So that's my take on this. Before we get into a couple of super shout outs and start. Oh, we still got time. What did you all think of Von Evelyn? Von Evelyn singing, The America the Beautiful yesterday? What'd you think? A lot of people still don't know. That is the daughter of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. That's her first and middle name. So they didn't put McMahon, the name McMahon. They didn't want to use the name McMahon because she's trying to ink out her own career. It's kind of like Ava Raine not using Simone Johnson. I thought she did fine. But put it this way. I think we all agree, if she was trying to map out her own career without influence and help from mommy and daddy, she would not have sang yesterday. Obviously, mommy and daddy is the reason why she got the opportunity. And I thought she did fine. But just because you leave Levesque off the name doesn't mean you didn't get the rub, because many people would have thought it would have been a Netflix personality or a hip hop star or someone with 200 million followers. So that was that. All right. Let me acknowledge a few lads out there. This is from September. No, that's from last year. Wait a second. Here we go. Yeah, that was just an old one. Wait a minute. Oh, come on, man. Am I out in some... Okay. Here we go. We got some super shout-outs. I got it now. Hold on. Let's make it official. There we go. All right. Ronnie. Let's get into Ronnie first. What does Ronnie say over here? Shout out to Ronnie. He says, something was seriously lacking at SummerSlam. Other than Nick Aldis returning to the ring and Hell in a Cell, it felt like Raw, SmackDown, and Saturday night's main event rolled into one. Ronnie, thank you for the super shout out, and I agree with you. Some of the matches felt like they were regular TV. Again, Hell in a Cell, it was good, but I don't know if it should have closed the show. I mean, Oba being the last visual we see is big. That's Oba. Oba is the future, man. That guy is going to be the cornerstone. All right, that guy's got a massive future. And, you know, props to Oba Femi, too, because that must be an insane amount of pressure. Just because he's big and burly and tough doesn't mean that he doesn't have butterflies. Yesterday just felt very, very weak. It felt like something watered down. It felt like a job you could have done at home that you could have knocked it out in 2 hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to stretch it out over 2 nights. I don't like that. So shout out to Miss M2U. Thank you for the 20 spot. I really appreciate that. Much love. Keeping us going. Hey, DT, I appreciate that I was so bored with the Cody and Punk match. I didn't even realize that they had moved over and back to the main event. What the fuck? I'm glad that they purchased tickets to go to this show. She says she was so bored with the Cody and Punk match. Didn't realize that they had moved over. CM Punk being moved to SmackDown was something that was planned for a while. Obviously, we look back on this, and the whole creative was, how do we get Punk on SmackDown without a draft or a transfer window or a trade? Why would Sami Zayn defend a SmackDown World Championship, the WWE Championship, which is SmackDown's title, on Raw? Oh, I get it. We'll have Gunther start screwing with Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis will do something he's not supposed to, so he has to step down as GM temporarily, take a leave of absence, just in time. So when CM Punk wins the title on Raw against the SmackDown guy, and now CM Punk is forced to go to SmackDown, then all of a sudden the following week, Nick Aldis is reinstated. But we want to have Nick Aldis and Gunther at SummerSlam. So we'll have Nick Aldis resign again, and then we'll set up that match, and that allows us to do this. CM Punk is now on SmackDown. He didn't have to beat Cody for the championship. Sammy gets his moment in Saudi Arabia. CM Punk gets to go to SmackDown without having Cody drop it directly to him. Then we can have Nick Aldis and Gunther do their thing. We give a little bone to Nick Aldis. And then once everything is done, we're right back to where we were. Nick Aldis handed in his resignation yesterday to Triple H. Triple H turned around and said, "This is what I think of your resignation. You shouldn't have did what you did, but that's how we do things. We do it in the ring. See you Friday." So we're right back to where we were. Listen, that is long-term booking. I mean, if we're being honest, that is pretty good for WWE to, I mean, a lot of it is dumb. A lot of it is dumb, but they did cover all their tracks. I don't know who the person was to be, you know, to go against the grain. But to me, I love being that person. You know, Vince used to have nothing but yes men in that company. So you always, you know, would be frustrated because you didn't have someone that would contest it or be devil's advocate. When people used to say to me back in the day, would you ever work for TNA? I said, I would only work for TNA as if I could be devil's advocate. If Creative and Dixie Carter thinks you should do this, I turn around and say, well, did you think about this? What about this? And what, you know, this is going to be a problem. You know, and unfortunately, you got people out. No, that's a great idea, boss. That's amazing, boss. You see Busted Open Radio being neutered now. And you have people coming on and making comments, and they just sit there and they just gush. Wow, we get to sit front row at SummerSlam. They didn't even have to pay for it. You know, it just, you know, I give WWE credit for covering almost every base in this. But in the end, you know, Sami Zayn is hurt by it. Now, Kevin Owens, we don't want to go too far ahead, but Kevin Owens returning tonight is expected. Does he help Sami Zayn? Does he screw Sami Zayn? Maybe he doesn't show up. I don't know. But I think when people were saying, oh, Kevin Owens should have showed up yesterday with Cody, I was like, no, if he's going to show up at all, it's got to be Sami Zayn. And, oh, there is one other thing I want to say about Gunther. I would think in a perfect world, I know it doesn't sound like it would make sense right now, but I would love to see Gunther and Nick Aldis as a tag team. I think they would fucking be great as a tag team. I mean, it would be kind of hard to get to that point, but I think they would fucking kill it as a tag team. Thank you for that, Miss M to you. M to you. Miss M to you. All right. Let's continue. Lost but found. Thank you for the 2-spot. Roxanne Perez needs to win Money in the Bank. Oh, I love that idea. I love that idea. Roxanne Perez is going to be drooling. It's like having 3 dogs. One has a biscuit, one has a bone, and Roxanne is in the middle just drooling, looking at both. I have nothing. I want one. I don't know which one I want. I want one. Now, the problem is, who does she try to grab first? Be interesting. You know, unfortunately, we don't have a tertiary title for Roxanne Perez, you know, so I like that. Roxanne Perez with the briefcase, teasing, cashing it in. Now, there's obviously SmackDown champions also that she could cash in against. But that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Nero Faye, man, much love to you, too. He is tuning in all the way from Israel. Hope everything stays safe for you over there. Much love. You know that, Nir. He is good, proud member of the Donzilla Army, the Castle Comrades. Thank you, Nir. Lost but found also says, how is Oba still getting a title shot? Oh, Nick, Adam Pearce can make that decision anytime he wants. You could have a confrontation in the back. And Nick Aldis says, you know what? You won King of the Ring. I'm going to give you your shot. Crowd would go nuts. Crowd would go nuts. It could be something as simple as that. And I think that's how they'll do it down the line. Problem is, I don't know if you do it with Roman Reigns. I don't know if you do it with Roman Reigns. Crowd was chanting after SummerSlam to CM Punk Oba chants. And CM Punk's like, I want Oba too. He ain't getting Oba. First of all, different brands, obviously. But second of all, Oba, I don't think is going anywhere near the World Championship at the present time. Too soon. Absolutely too soon. So I don't think so. But, Adam Pearce could easily just change his mind down the line. And there you go. There you go. Shout out to Guardian of Chaos. Thank you very much for your generosity. You don't have to do that. You know that, but I appreciate you. I don't mind the grinding. I just hate it when there's 1,000 other people doing the grinding at the same time, trying to figure out different times and days to do stuff, have a little bit, plus I hate having a lot of you make decisions. And I really mean that. I mean, I could just record stuff and, hey, I don't, you show up fine. If you don't show up, that's on you. But, I kind of want to, I don't want to burn myself out simply because everybody else is burning themselves out. I give props to everyone out there that is grinding hard. I mean, everybody, whether you like them or not, are working really, really hard for what they do. And me, keeping it 100 isn't the best formula these days, but it is what I am. I am what I am. And that's all what I am. And he wanted to shout out to Austin Nance. Yes, Guardian and Austin Nance are holding down the ship over here. They are the moderators. You show respect to them, and they show respect to you. So thank you, as always, for the support, my friend. Vengeance. Wow. Thank you for the 40 pounds, my friends. Always enjoy your content. Much love. I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you enjoy it. I always keep it real over here. I will praise something when deserving. I'll criticize something when deserving. Yeah, we kind of have a little bit of dopey fun along the way. Lighthearted humor. There's no maliciousness. There's no deep hatred. Kick my dog, there'll be deep hatred. Hit on my wife, there'll be deep hatred. Call me fat. I probably agree with you. So, and we move on. Thank you, everybody. So, let's quickly run down the card yesterday. I'm not going to spend a shitload of time on each match. Just a couple of overviews about what went down. And then we'll once again preview Night 2. Couple of things. I want to see to pulse everybody live, who you're going with the matches. We did predictions on Monday, but a couple of things have kind of been tweaked since then. So we had Liv Morgan retain the Women's World Championship, beating Io Sky in 13 and a half minutes. Many people feel that match was a little bit short. For a really, really good Raw match, you sometimes would get more than 13 minutes. To me, my biggest problem with this match is not Liv retaining the title, but the same formula. Judgment Day interfering. This time, nobody coming out to help Io, negate that a little bit. She's been making a save for others. Maybe some people will say, no, she wasn't making a save. She was just pissed off at Judgment Day. It's not the point. You came out and tried to stop some of the antics during my match. I kind of owe you. Let me go out there and do the same. There was one point where Io hit Oblivion. That's another thing. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but, I'm getting not tired of it, but it's too obvious. You have people constantly in title matches hitting the other person's finisher. And I don't have a problem with it, except that for some reason, when an opponent hits a finisher, it's never a 3 count. Obviously, you normally don't want someone to get a 3 count using someone else's finisher. But, let me get morbid for a second. If your finisher is this, and you finish it on me, that's it, game over. But if I do a finisher on you, for some reason you kick out at 2. But wait a minute, I hit the temple, just like you did. How come me but you kick out at 2? I mean, some of these finishers, yeah, if you don't execute it the right way, yeah, I could see it. But when Liv and Io are the same weight, and you literally grab the same person and drop the same weight and plant that person's head, maybe Io should not execute it so well. So you have Wade Barrett and Michael Cole say, wow, she landed Oblivion. She didn't have, the impact like Liv Morgan does, but wow. No, they hit the finishers perfectly. And for some reason, the opponent, it's a 2 count. But for the champion or the person who does that finisher, it's always a win. That's one of the things that kind of irks me a little bit. And we had it yesterday. But in the end, Liv Morgan countered a moonsault, and she hit the second code breaker during the match, and Oblivion wins the title. A lot of interference, as I said, with Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. Just felt like a glorified Raw match with the same formula. And in storyline, where is Adam Pearce? Where's the referee saying, you, out of here. Out of here. None of that. And even when you do it at the very end, damage is already done. You would think for SummerSlam, with all of this shit that's happening in storyline, Adam Pearce, it is official. Judgment Day is banned at ringside. If you get involved, Liv will lose the championship. That was pretty much my problem with this match. The girls worked hard. Definitely put on a decent match. Formula was This LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys defeat the Usos and Jacob Fatu. Obviously, Solo Sikoa, the moment of the night, doing the Eat Party right in front of Jay, and the crowd, like I told you, the crowd, you have to have a connection with the crowd. If you get the crowd interactive, it looks like you're over like Rover. You can't simply just go. That's why, like I talk about Matt Cardona, which I honestly think Matt Cardona's on life support now, unless they go back to Zack Ryder or some dramatic change in his character. You can't just go out there like, I'm real, damn it. This is me, damn it. Like, you do nothing to get the crowd involved. You took away your catchphrase, woo, woo, woo. The crowd doesn't get involved. They're not simply going to be like, wow, he worked hard on the indies. He's a king of the death matches, even though he's only had one match. Wow, he's Chelsea Green's husband. Wow, I like him. Like, and then what? You can say all that with your hands on your asses. So the problem is, Solo Sikoa, hey, let me do the E-Party. Anybody could have come out there and done the E-Party, and the fans would have done it. You play that music, you could have Baron Corbin go out there, run it back. And as soon as the fan, it's like robotic. It's kind of like if I tell my dog, sit, he sits. If I tell him split, he sits. If I tell him shit, he sits because he thinks I'm saying sit. So you could have Donald Trump come out there and run it back. And you think the fans are like, fuck you. Like, it's just me, Oos. It's just you and me, Oos. They're all going to do it. And they're going to be like, fuck you, Trump. Yeah, it's just me, Oos. Fuck you, Trump. But it was fun with Solo yesterday. I wish they would build on it, but I don't know if they will. A lot of clusterfuck action. You had your moments. A lot of work with Royce Keys and Jacob Fatu. Jey Uso, LA Knight. It was okay. It just, Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso, for the most part. Solo did not turn on his team. Don't know if he gets involved in a Roman Reigns match tonight. Never say never. But how this match ended was you had everybody brawling. And what happened was Royce Keys had hit a powerbomb right by the timekeeper's table on Jacob Fatu. So they're out. And then you had Jimmy and Jay in the ring with LA Knight. LA Knight eats a spear from Jey Uso, hits a splash from Jimmy Uso. And it looks like we're about to get the 1D on LA Knight. But Jey Uso, his back is facing the rampway. And Jimmy Uso is leaned up against the ropes. So here comes Solo Sikoa behind him, and he hits the Samoan spike without Jay looking. Jimmy goes down. That leaves LA Knight in the ring with Jey Uso. LA Knight hits blunt force trauma. I love the way that Jay took it. It really, really looked good on TV. LA Knight gets the win. Now what? Now what? Now what? To me, it felt like a Raw match. Like, where does this go from here? What, Roman on Raw? What is Roman going to say? You guys disappointed me. You lost at SummerSlam. Like really? And what? And then what? And then what? I was happy for Royce Keys getting an opportunity. Obviously, WWE has to tweak it a little bit with him. Him and Jacob Fatu are good friends, and they absolutely love working with each other, so they're having a ball. I think you need to tweak Solo Sikoa a little bit. Can't have the snake oil look about him. He looks like he's going to sell me a car with a bad engine. You got to change him up a little bit. And I honestly think he can get himself over. I really do. I've always professed my appreciation for him. And I saw him before he went to WWE. I got, the privilege of seeing him come back to NXT that one day in person when he won the North American Championship. And then he had to relinquish it because he was now part of the main roster. I was in that building when it happened. He is very, very, very well liked, and he's got it. You know what it reminds me of? And a lot of you are going to say, no, DT, no. But some of you will understand why I say this. It reminds me of Big E. When Big E was paired with Dolph Ziggler and AJ Lee, he used to just be like this all the time. I used to bring this up. We used to see like cell phone videos of Big E in the back. Funniest motherfucker. Charisma, joking, so likable. And you could hear the old DTKC shows. We have it in a synopsis. Just search it on a website, DonTony.com. We would say, why don't they bring that onto TV? Just let him be him. And suddenly, not suddenly, but ultimately they formed the New Day. They allowed him to let his personality out a little bit. He became one of the most beloved people on TV. I'm not saying that that'll happen to Solo Sikoa, but it reminds me of the same. Solo Sikoa, serious as a doorknob, just stiff, acting, doing nothing. And outside of wrestling, this motherfucker's got that charisma, just really, really good, animated, funny, can talk. And if you allow that to be a little bit more organic, I think that's what the word is. Solo needs to be a little bit more organic on TV, and he could turn into Big E. Definitely would love some of you people to go on other people's shows and say, hey, Don Tony thinks that Solo could be like similar to Big E when he first came in. Big E was stiff as a corpse. Didn't react, didn't do nothing, but they allowed his charisma to come out. I think they just needed to be a little bit more organic. But match was 11 minutes. 11 minutes. So the Usos and Jacob Fatu get the loss in this one. Next one, we had Gunther defeating Nick Aldis, 11 minutes and 40 seconds. Seeing a pattern here? We got 11-minute matches, except for two. The next one, and then obviously the Undisputed WWE Championship match. Everybody was making a big deal of Gunther coming out to his music, Morning Glory by Oasis. Crowd got pumped up from the music. I loved his intro. You could see how emotional it was. His wife, Mickie James, and their son were sitting at ringside. Gunther was trolling them a little bit at the time, but, the fans are chanting, you still got it. And he does. He does still have it. 3 years being out of the ring is a long time. And he's been working out. He's been working out with Wade Barrett. He's been working with Gunther, preparing for this match. A lot of cardio. And, the emotions of being in that ring is very overwhelming too. And you could see early on in the match, Nick Aldis trying to find his footing, and nerves are definitely rolling, but he's a ring general also. I did get a kick out of it. I don't know if you guys heard it, but when Michael Cole was mentioning a little bit of Nick Aldis's accolades outside of WWE, which is only GM, he mentioned that he was a former TNA world champion. And I don't know if it was deliberate, but didn't say NWA champion. He said something like NWE champion, like it's like kind of like he maybe burped or had a hiccup while he was saying the last letter. He's like, he's a former TNA world champion, NWE champion. And I was like, wait, Cody and he mentioned Cody. And I was like, did he intentionally do that so people like Google it, don't find a result? Because they're, all in, all out, excuse me, whatever. It's like, I don't know. But he did a great job. This match, basically, the whole part of it is Gunther's chops, Nick Aldis trying to lock on his Kingsland cloverleaf, a lot of suplexes, just a lot of good wrestling. Gunther doing what he does best. And, one thing that was very repetitive in this night was grabbing the ropes. You had that happen multiple matches. Cody versus Punk, put on a submission, grab the rope. You get the cloverleaf on Gunther, grab the rope. You had the rope grabbed numerous times. And yeah, you should, because it's the only way you're going to be able to break a hold. But Gunther in the end would prevail. Gunther had locked in a sleeper. Elbows, like he does to the head. Anvil elbows. And then tighten the submission a little bit further. Many people were complaining, Nick Aldis, he tapped out too quickly. But the match was solid. 11 minutes and 40 seconds. It was a little short. I think you go 15 or 16 minutes. This could have been a classic. Arguably best match of the night for some. Could it be best match of the night? It's interesting because I personally think for a lot of people, it's either Gunther Aldis, Cody Punk, or Liv and Io. And the funny thing is, I think it would be kind of a hard decision between the three. Like those three, none really stands out. Like there isn't like no clear cut. You had three that were good, but not great. This was very good because it was Nick Aldis' return to the ring in 3 years. If Nick Aldis would have been wrestling on a regular basis, people would have considered this like a SmackDown match. But it was very, very good. After the match is over, you have Mickie James and their son enter the ring. A lot of emotions. Crowd gave a wonderful standing ovation for Nick Aldis, and, he felt it. And I'm happy that this was not a retirement. Not from the ring, but some people, including me, were fearing like, could this be another person that Gunther's going to write off of WWE? So he is staying around, and we'll see for how long. But my problem is, Nick Aldis still has years left in the ring. Does he want to sacrifice those years to be the GM and be part of WWE? I would not be surprised within a year he leaves so he can finish out his pro wrestling career and then return when he knows that it's it. You look at his physique. Look at his work. How do you just waste that? How do you just not do that? Why not even do it in house shows? Why not have him work house shows? I think that would be fun. I think Gunther and Nick Aldis would love to do that. I don't know. Just me trying to come up with logic. So we continue on. Next match on the card. Oh, God. Fatal Influence defeat the Bellas and Paige. This match was 7.5 minutes. And honestly, it would have been more like 5. You had some gaga. You had, Nikki Bella looked fine. But again, this is nostalgic. They are pioneers for this era, whatever you want to call it. But the thing is, the women of wrestling today, from WWE to TNA to AEW to Indies. It's a different level. It's not just, character and gimmick with a little bit of talent involved. They're in the WWE right now because of their history, because of their past, not because they can work. All right. They're a nostalgia act. They're familiar names. They want familiar names on these cards, recognizable names, names that people remember from 10 years ago. You would be shocked how many people I know that says, oh yeah, I used to watch WWE in the 90s. I don't watch it anymore. I used to watch WWE 10, 15 years ago. I don't watch it anymore. I used to watch it 20 years ago. I don't watch it anymore. You'd be surprised. And I do get enough people who say, I used to watch it 10 years ago, but nah, I haven't watched it in a while. So you bring back some familiar names, especially on the women's side. You don't see a lot of old nostalgia on the men's side. And the ones that are nostalgia, they really have not let go for the most part. Now, don't forget, tomorrow, we have Big Kaz and probably Enzo making their return. And everything about their return is going to be interaction with the fans with ability. It's going to feel more than just a nostalgia act because Big Bill could go. And Enzo could still work, still very young. So this is going to be a little bit more than just nostalgia, but make no mistake about it, it's a connection with the fans. So just to summarize this match, Brie Bella gets injured. You have everybody brawling in this match. JC Jane hit the rolling encore on Paige to get the victory. After the match is over, you could see it a mile away. Fatal Influence leaves the ring. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, legends. Go back to where you came from. They're going up the rampway. Brie Bella looks pissed. Brie Bella, she just had her hand glued to her arm. I mean, it was just glued to her arm. Unless she had a magnet in her hand and the other side was a magnet, and that was it. Because Brie Bella, you have Brie, Paige, and Brie Bella. Brie Bella lays out Paige, and Brie Bella's kicking Paige, and I know the shoulder hurts for a minute, but you could just literally, it did not move. They turn on Paige, and they walk out. And Brie Bella, it's like, nobody's going to take my spot. We talked about this on Monday, that the Bellas were going to reform a team. And where does that leave Paige? Paige is nostalgia. Fans still love Paige, but Paige is a novelty act at this point. Yes, you could have brought back AJ Lee, which would have a pretty amazing dynamic there. But now Brie Bella's on the shelf. So this just causes I know what some of you are thinking. Well, Don Tony, this is what they could do. They could have Brie Bella feud with Paige. Excuse me while I, excuse me while I kiss this guy. Excuse me while I get a little high. No. I don't think I want to see that. I don't want to see that. And no, I don't want to see Paige bring out someone else to take out Brie Bella. Maybe Paige brings back Stephanie Vaquer. Maybe they would have done Paige and Stephanie Vaquer versus the Bellas. That's another. They could have done that. But what does this do now? The whole idea of turning on Paige was so the Bellas could reform. Paige gets a partner, someone else, have a little schmaz, a little bit more nostalgia tour. But now that's on the shelf. Unbelievable. Next, CM Punk successfully retains the undisputed WWE Championship against Cody Rhodes. Early on, Cody's working on Punk's knee. At one point, hit a disaster kick, a super Cody cutter just for a 2. He put the figure 4 on CM Punk to exasperate Punk's sore knee. Punk gets the bottom rope. Bottom rope used multiple times in this match. Punk locks in the Anaconda Vice. So how does Cody get out of it? Grab the bottom rope. They start brawling on the outside. CM Punk goes for it all. Goes to dive the elbow onto the announcer's table. No water in the pool. He goes right through it. Cody gets out of the way. So Punk absorbs that. They ultimately get back in the ring. And Cody's about to hit a disaster kick, but instead, ref bump, which you saw a mile away. So with the ref bump, Cody hits Crossroads. Next thing you know, RKO out of nowhere. See, Cody hit Crossroads first, so CM Punk was not aware that Randy Orton came out. So Randy Orton hits the RKO on Cody Rhodes, looks at the camera, winks, and leaves. So Cody is laid out. CM Punk hits the go to sleep, match over. And this was 30 minutes. And that's pretty much to sum it up. It just felt something was missing big time. Somebody said in a super chat earlier that something felt missing from SummerSlam. This match, something was missing. And I think what it was the suspension of disbelief that these two guys really, really don't like each other. You can't force that in a couple of weeks because you're selling the match. I think it would have worked better if Cody just obsessed about getting his title back, which probably would have been a little sour to the fans, but still, suddenly this heat against each other. In the end, they're both baby faces. Randy Orton, it's going to be interesting because the crowd is going to be into Randy Orton too. Could this lead to three-way matches? Absolutely. I almost feel like Randy Orton may actually end up RKOing CM Punk as well. Wouldn't surprise me. But you may not be able to do it right away because of the match that's coming up tonight between Finn Balor and Sami Zayn. But, again, it's funny because on the predictions contest for Patreon, two of the bonus questions was, will Randy Orton appear in this match? And another one was, how many non-wrestlers, how many non-WWE people, how many outsiders get interfere on these shows, get involved? And the choices were 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and I think over 5. And so far, we have none. And you would think that would be a plus. Hey, DT, no actors, no actresses, no hip-hop artists, no country music stars. None of that. But there's nothing wrong with having a little if it's used the right way. But something was seriously lacking in this match. It was okay, but this is not a match we're going to remember. I think people will mostly remember Oba and Brock, and even that is kind of lacking. So that leaves us to the main event. Oba Femi beats Brock Lesnar, wins their trios of matches 2-1. Hell in a Cell. Cage goes down. Oba with the early advantage. Wade Barrett losing his shit, shocked that maybe Brock didn't take Oba as serious as he should have. This was very, very physical. I mean, both guys worked their ass off. It was a lot of spots. It was F5s. It was Suplex City. It was choke slams. It was going through a table. And listen, that table spot looked pretty freaking stiff. Oba had a table lined up, sitting up against the cage, and Brock went right through it, like face and shoulder first. And, it just disintegrated into 1,000 pieces. This was a very physical match. Ultimately, obviously, Brock starts getting the upper hand, hits some choke slams, some F5s. Then he rips open the canvas to expose the wood. And I thought this spot was great. And Brock flashing back to Undertaker a little bit. First of all, if you remember the spot where Brock and Undertaker both sat up, the match from a long time ago, Brock kind of did that. Brock does a tombstone on Oba Femi, and it was beautiful the way it was done, because right when it's about to hit the wood, they turn the camera sideways, and you hear a thump against the wood, and suspension of disbelief, it's Oba Femi's head, but in actuality, it's Brock's knees. And it just was a great visual. He fucking killed it with that tombstone. That I thought was great. Obviously, did the pin attempt. You know, a lot of tribute to Undertaker. 2 count. So, ultimately, Oba Femi starts, I don't want to use the term hulking up, but Oba Femi is starting to, get a little momentum back. Brock's starting to get a little bit nervous. Brock grabs a steel chair, and that had to hurt. It's funny when Wade Barrett says something like, that would hurt for any normal man. I don't care if you're the size of Brock Lesnar or if you're the size of Hornswoggle. Maybe that's exaggerated, but I don't care if you're the size of Oba Femi or if you're the size of Johnny Gargano. If I punch a steel chair full force, the human skeleton doesn't turn around and say, no, me no break, because, the body, 300 pounds. That fucking hurts no matter what size you are. He punches the chair, and those knuckles gotta be sore today. So Brock looks concerned, and Oba Femi hits the fall from grace to get the win. And we think we're going off the air. The credits come up. Brock rolls out of the ring. Oba is getting up slowly, selling, what just happened. And they're doing a pose, and we think we're going off the air with that. And you look and you see the camera on the rampway behind Brock and Paul Heyman, and Brock returns to the ring. Takes his elbow pads off. That's his way of saying, his gloves off. That's his way of saying, I'm not fighting. Nothing about retiring, just I'm not fighting. People do that. And Oba looks reluctant, and then Brock hugs him. And Oba doesn't know what to think. It felt exactly like when Brock hugged Cody. He lifts his arm up, and we think, okay, that's it. But then Brock gets the microphone, and Brock, shouts out Minnesota because he grew up and did a lot in Minnesota. They were selling Viking T-shirt-like jerseys because when Brock tried out for the Vikings many years ago, they brought up Brock going, I think, to the University of Minnesota. And Brock says, this is the past, this is the future. And he passed the torch. And, Oba looks, I wouldn't say dumbfounded, but Oba was just in awe, I think, than anything else. And the crowd loved it. And now Brock walks off, technically a baby face. He is retired. Let's make this clear. Remember how his contract is structured now. The idea is he's retired, so people don't say, oh, they're paying Brock and they ain't doing nothing with him. What'll happen is an opportunity will come up in the future. Could be WrestleMania, could be Royal Rumble, could be anything. And they reach out to Brock, hey, Brock, would you be interested in doing this? Hey, Brock, would you like to do this? And then if they come to an agreement, then that's how it happens. But if it doesn't happen, then Brock just goes off in the sunset. That is where we're at. There's no controversy. There's no dirt sheets. There's no behind the scenes stuff. That's what it is. Brock now goes home. Could appear on a Raw in the very near future. I don't think so, but he goes home. And now he stays home and does everything else until an opportunity comes up again. And if the stars aligned, Brock Lesnar will make a surprise appearance, want to do something. You'll get the people that overanalyze it. Makes no sense. but we'll get what we'll get. I wish the cell would have been utilized more. But to me, it was more that they were locked in a cage. You would have done a cage match, would have had the same effect. But Hell in a Cell just feels more important. It feels more important than a cage match. So that's why you do Hell in a Cell. But again, 11 minutes, not long enough, in my honest opinion. But, overall, on a scale of 1 to 10 for night one, I think this premium live event, I give it a 6. And that might even be a little bit generous because 2 matches had no business being on this premium live event. You only had 6. So 1/3 of the matches are gone. That leaves you with 4. Liv Morgan and Io Sky felt like a Raw match with the same antics. So that the fact that they had a good match saves it a little bit, obviously. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk worked their ass off, but they didn't click. They didn't gel. It just didn't feel, it just felt put together. I don't care what they did the last couple of weeks. It just felt rushed, put together. You probably would have had a better outcome if Cody would have won a tournament or something, to lead to this, and maybe, just trying to claw back and winning multiple, qualifiers. And maybe it would have felt a little differently, but they just tried to force the anger and the heat too much. The backstage friction all of a sudden, too much. It was not believable. It's not believable. So, but it was okay. Gunther and Nick Aldis was fine. It was fine. I don't think they should have gone 30 minutes. Nick Aldis hasn't wrestled in 3 years, so you don't want him to be a little bit too invincible. You don't want to make it feel like he took Gunther to the limit. He had his moments, but he's not back full time. So 11 minutes, although a little bit short, maybe add 2-3 extra minutes to it, might have made a little bit more sense. And that just leaves Oba versus Brock. One of the shortest Hell in a Cell matches of all time. One of the shortest. The paper I tore up, ironically, was the one with the shortest times. It's one of the shortest in history. And, of course, these two guys should not be going 20 minutes, but you could have easily done a couple of extra spots where they were both laid out for a minute, or somebody's laid out for a minute, and that eats up a minute. Next thing you know, you're around 14, 15 minutes, and it would have felt a little bit more manageable. For the main event, I'll say this, be glad, be thankful ESPN did not do that 1 hour pre-show bullshit, where the first hour is on the app, or is on their regular platform for free. Thank God we didn't get that shit, because there's a good chance Oba versus Brock, Hell in a Cell, could have been on that first hour. It could have been in that first hour. You certainly were not going to put both 6-person tags in that first hour. You probably would have done one. Maybe you do Io and Liv, but not for ESPN standards. They probably would have done Cody, Punk, or Brock, Oba, and I kind of feel it would have been Brock and Oba. Thank God they didn't do that first hour. You imagine if they fucking did that first? We talked about it on the history show yesterday when I recorded it. Be glad that they didn't do that, because that would have made this premium live event felt even worse. Would have felt even worse. At least by the end of the night, there was some build anticipation. Anticipation, when you watch a movie for 2-3 hours, whatever the plot is, there's anticipation to get to the end. And then when it gets to the end, you get to the climax, you're like glued. Imagine if you get the end at the beginning. Oh, no. All right, so now tonight, and we're going to wrap this up in about 15 minutes. I think 2 hours is much. That's enough. Because tomorrow, right after Raw, we got the Don Tony show, and we will include with that a honest review of Night 2. Does Night 2 do better? I think so. I think there's going to be some interesting shit involved. I wonder if The Rock returns. Do not discount that possibility. I don't think so, but you never know. You never know. So the matches for tonight. Trick Williams defending the United States title against Baron Corbin. Again, a match, in my opinion, has no business being on this show. Once again, a big thumb in the ass to call it Carmelo Hayes by WWE. If anything, you put this as a three-way. But, look, when you have Trick Williams at a 98% chance of winning this, why would I want to see this? Like, he's not going to injure Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's not going to lay against the ring steps like this. Like, he beats Baron Corbin like, oh, good. Like, why would I care? With all due respect, why would I care? He did great at NXT. He was doing good on the indies. He's back here. For why? So, you got this match. I really don't have much interest in it. The 5-way ladder match to determine the interim champion. As we predicted on Monday, Last Legend advanced. No Julia. Feel bad for Julia, but Last Legend did advance. I still think Jade Cargill has a legitimate shot because we got to think down the line. Who is next? Who is the victim to ultimately have the unification match with Rhea Ripley? To me, I narrow it down to either Charlotte Flair or Jade Cargill. Last Legend would be interesting. I root for Chelsea Green. Let's make no mistake about it. But down the line, Rhea Ripley, Chelsea Green, the way WWE has used Chelsea Green, I just don't feel it. I think Chelsea Green would be an awesome underdog to win this tonight. But you got to think one step ahead. That's what I try to do. I try to think one step ahead. Now, listen, my predictions for night one, not all of them came to be. I thought Io Sky was taking this. I thought, what do you do with Io Sky next? The only other thing is possibly feud with Sal Ruka, which feels a little weird. But now with Raquel Rodriguez, like, you're going to keep Io Sky feuding with the Judgment Day? No. So what does that do? Rhea Ripley's out with an injury. Asuka and Kairi Sane are no longer here. So I thought, okay, Io Sky gets the belt. You could put up anybody against her because, hey, what's the storyline? I want the title. Easy peasy. We didn't get that. I'm still thinking one step ahead, and I think WWE wants to do Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley. They could do Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley because they also work really, really good together. Is WWE going back to Saudi Arabia this year? Anyone in the chat? No. I mean, I think it's possible. The more I think about it, I think they do go back to Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, you could end up doing Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley unification match in Saudi Arabia. I kind of think that that's where that's going to be. And I think in Saudi Arabia, they would love either Jade Cargill or Charlotte Flair. I think that's what you do. I don't think you wait all the way to WrestleMania. Ooh, no. You don't keep an interim champion all the way to WrestleMania. That would suck. I think Crown Jewel could very well be the place. I think that could very well be the place. The next Saudi Arabia could be it. Because I don't think Rhea Ripley's going to be out that much longer. Obviously, they thought it's possible she could have gone in time for SummerSlam, and they waited too long, and it's like, well, we'd be stupid if we strip her now. So they do the interim champion instead. I don't know if Crown Jewel actually is Crown Jewel, because then, didn't they do like something with Australia? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's necessarily called Crown Jewel. I mean, whenever the next Saudi event is, that's where I think it could happen. We'll see. We shall see. So that's who we got in this match. I don't think you would have a bad choice. The only person I really don't think, I mean, out of everybody, I just feel like Tiffany Stratton, something is missing big time. Something's missing big time with that. I kind of, like, Last Legend would be refreshing. Chelsea Green would be great, but I just don't know if WWE is going that route. Like, I could see B-Fab and Meechin getting involved and helping Jade. I don't know. I'm still sticking with my original choices. We also have, oh, nice, monies on a poll, human monies. I think I said $10,000 on Monday. It's $100,000. You know, look, my original choice is Dominic. Yes, a celebrity, probably that fucking football player that narrated the intro. I thought that was Carmelo Hayes. I thought if Carmelo Hayes and, JTG had intercourse and gave birth, they would have gave birth to the guy who narrated the SummerSlam Night 1, the guy from the Minnesota Vikings. Very good intro. I'm not criticizing the guy at all. When I first saw it, I thought it was Carmelo Hayes. Then I was like, that kind of looks like JTG. And I'm like, oh, it kind of looks like both of them. Maybe he comes out. Who knows? But Justin Jefferson, that's who it is. Thank you very much, Austin. It was Justin, Austin. It was Justin all along. I personally feel in the WWE world, a Minnesotan helps Danhausen get the human monies. In the real world, WWE may need to send a message to children. It's not nice to be stealing other people's monies. So I kind of feel like Danhausen should lose because I don't think it sends the right message. I know, listen. If it was up to me, I would have Danhausen win the briefcase, open it up, throw all the monies in the crowd, and then everybody picks it up like, what the fuck is this? This ain't real money. It's that fucking fake WWE printed shit. And then the funny thing is, people put it on eBay, human money from SummerSlam. And meanwhile, other people are like, oh yeah, watch this. I'm going to order on a WWE shop and claim that I got it at SummerSlam. I just kind of feel like in the end, you know, the Judgment Day should get their money back. I don't know. But you know this is going to be the comedy clusterfuck of the night. Penta defending the Intercontinental Championship against Chad Gable. Most of us feel at this point you got to give it to Chad Gable. How they emphasize family, friends, Minnesota. You know, I still just feel that WWE has not used Chad Gable as good as they should have. Maybe this gives them some momentum. It would be an awesome moment in Minnesota. It would kind of feel a little bit, not on the same level, but remember when Zelina Vega fought in Puerto Rico against Rhea? And, you know, everybody thought, oh my God, just give it to Zelina just for one night. It would have been the ultimate memory. But remember, they were building Rhea's momentum at the time, so you weren't going to interrupt that. I wouldn't put it on the same scale, but I could see Minnesota getting really, really behind Chad Gable. So I'm going to go with Chad. I'm not changing my predictions. I'm sticking with what I went with, but I just feel something is missing with Chad Gable. But that could open up opportunities with Ethan Page and Rusev and others. I mean, there's so many other people that Chad Gable could feud with going forward. And maybe you do something with Penta, realign with Rey Fenix. People fucking, I mean, that is an awesome tag team to have in the tag team division. I don't know why they're so against it. Plus, it would help Rey Fenix. Thank God he's not injured, but cut down a little bit on his high risk shit. Then we got Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn. I would like to see Finn Balor and CM Punk, but Kevin Owens lurking. You got to ask yourself, what would be the better way to bring Kevin Owens back? If he comes back tonight, does he help Sami Zayn win? Does he hurt Sami Zayn? Me personally, fans know Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn truly love each other, are very, very close friends, best friends. Especially when Sami won the championship, Kevin Owens was the first person online to congratulate him. I kind of feel you got to rekindle that. I think you have to have Kevin Owens come in and help Sami. I get it. Be much more realistic if he cost Sami. But, something I thought about this week. Remember who won the Universal Championship the first time? Finn Balor. Had to relinquish it due to injury. Kevin Owens came in and snatched that shit up with help from Triple H. Remember when Kevin Owens was in the corner? So there is history with Finn Balor and Kevin Owens. So I kind of think Kevin Owens is going to get a pop. I personally think you have Kevin Owens. I would rather see Kevin Owens cost Sami Zayn, but then they feud. And yes, that could be an easy way to get Sami Zayn out of the world title picture. But I also think if Kevin Owens helps Sami Zayn, that allows Sami Zayn to get a rematch against CM Punk. That could ultimately have CM Punk feud with Kevin Owens. I actually think that would be an interesting feud. I think Kevin Owens and CM Punk would be a nice, interesting feud for the championship. So I'm gonna go with Finn Balor, with Sami Zayn, although I kind of would rather have Finn Balor get it. I just feel like WWE's doing a little smoke and mirrors with Finn Balor. It just feels a little too smoke and mirror-y, in my opinion. That leaves us Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns has to defeat Seth. The first night, Seth challenged Roman and says, you know why you want this match? Because you've never beat me. And that eats you up. And you don't want to go your whole career knowing that you never beat me. That's it. You sealed the outcome of this match, in my honest opinion. Now, what leads to Roman Reigns retaining is another story. Who gets involved tonight? Does somebody show up we're not expecting? Could the Usos get involved? Could Solo Sikoa get involved? Could Jacob Fatu get involved? Could LA Knight get involved? Could The Rock get involved? Could the fucking, Bloodline 2.0 get involved? Do we see Haku make an appearance? Like, there's so much shit. Could Braun Breaker get involved? Could somebody cost Seth Rollins? There's so much clusterfuck that could happen here that I expect to happen. But in the end, to me, there's no question. Roman walks out with the championship. Vince, I love the idea of Oba challenging Roman. I just feel it's too soon. Because you got to think to yourself, who's going to ultimately dethrone Oba? You could say Braun Breaker, you could say anybody you want, but in the end, that's not happening anytime soon. You can't prop up Oba too high because then that's what, listen, I know WWE would never use a cattle prod, and I know Oba's not undefeated, but the point is, WCW built Goldberg so fucking high that it got to a point when nobody thought he was going to lose a match. And WCW was in a bad situation. Like, who's going to defeat him? Who's going to pin him clean? And they couldn't come up with anybody. So their idea was, let's have a cattle prod do it. Let's have a cattle prod. And it's one of the worst finishes in history. It's not about the streak. It's about building up. And Oba, even though Brock defeated him, Oba is on a different level. So you could always have Oba get distracted, somebody interferes, Oba gets pinned, loses a championship. But I wouldn't do that with a world title. I would do that with the Intercontinental title. I think ultimately in the end, we might even see Oba versus Penta, or Oba versus Chad Gable. In the end, based on, I'm not saying tonight, but we'll see. We'll see. But this main event tonight, I honestly think it's going to save Night 2. I really do. I think it's going to save Night 2. I don't know if it'll be on the level of Punk Reigns from WrestleMania, but I think it'll save Night 2. It'll be a good match. Problem is, we've had so much between Seth and Roman in recent years. It just feels rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Seth doesn't lose anything by losing this match. Roman obviously loses the title by losing this match, but Seth is still one of the MVPs of this company, even with a loss. We'll see how we get to the finish, but in the end, Roman Reigns retains. And we lead into tomorrow night's Raw. So, with that said, I am going to jet. Definitely would love some of your input. You are welcome to take part in a poll. What did you think of SummerSlam Night 1? Thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down into Triple H's ass? Because to me, very, very watered down, very, very bland. SummerSlam should never have been 2 nights. And I hope they reconsider it next year. I don't think you could listen. You could have it done in a way where you could blame logistics. We wanted a 2-night, but where were we going to do it? Only has 1 night available. You know, it's not a failure if you go back to 1 night. It's an experiment. I still believe Royal Rumble is going 2 nights, and I think Royal Rumble would be a much easier way to go 2 nights because of the fact that 1 match is an hour plus by itself. Women's Royal Rumble match to close out Night 1, men's Royal Rumble match to close out Night 2, or semi-main event. Easy way to get the first hour done for each night. Now you got to just fill it with some other good shit too. So I'm going to jet. I have some stuff to do this afternoon. I will be watching SummerSlam tonight. If you're around tomorrow night, immediately after Raw, join me right here live on YouTube, youtube.com/Don Tony. We will be reviewing Night 2 of WrestleMania. Bite my tongue. Night 2 of SummerSlam. We'll recap Raw. We'll get into any additional wrestling news that we need to. Get into your feedback. I think we'll have a fun show. So, much love, everybody. I thank you very much for spending a little bit of... Do you like this 12 noon thing? Because I was seriously thinking about doing a Saturday 12 noon show on the weekends. Maybe a little bit of recapping of AEW stuff, SmackDown, some wrestling news. You know, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about doing we were also thinking about doing a Friday night right after SmackDown. So I think we're going to add an additional show within the next 2 weeks. But definitely, I'd like to know, what do you guys think? 12 noon on a Saturday? Yeah, I kind of like the Sunday night sit down still, but I'm curious. What do you think about the 12 noon? Because, it wasn't too bad. It allowed me to have my morning double espresso. Still got day ahead, and then we got SummerSlam tonight. So I'm out here, guys. Much love. Thank you very much for spending a little bit of your Sunday with me. Catch you all again in the next one. Ciao.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's alright. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.